This conference will now be recorded.
So guys, today we are going to talk about the collections or data structures in Python. We have totally 4. So they are nothing but list, tuple, set and dictionary. So sometimes this is also one auxiliary question. They'll ask you what are the different data structures that are available in Python, or they may ask you what are the different collections that are available in Python. So your answer should be list, tuple, set and dictionary. So our primary focus for today's session will be on list, and we'll talk about tuple, set, dictionary in the next session. So let's get started with the hands-on on the list. So I'll go to my Jupyter notebook. And by the way, you actually don't need to use Anaconda Navigator every time to launch the Jupyter notebook. You can directly launch the Jupyter notebook as well. So let me show that. So you just search for Jupyter notebook here. You should be able to just click on it. That will directly launch the Jupyter notebook for you. You don't need to launch Anaconda Navigator every time to launch the Jupyter notebook. You can just search for it and then launch the Jupyter notebook. And then as usual, I'll go to my downloads folder from here. Click on downloads here. And then I'll just do Control F, search for November 2022. Then click on that folder. I'm going to create a new notebook for today. Click on new, Python 3, and then give the name. So today we wanted to talk about lists in Python. I'm going to give the same list in Python. Click on rename. Then let's give the heading. Click on OK. First, let's talk about list creation. So we will go as per this. The first one is nothing but the list creation. So how to create a list? First, let's see how to create an empty list. Let's say I'll use a variable name as lst. To create an empty list, you can use list keyword. So that will create an empty list for you. You can see that we have the empty list created. This is one way. There is a second way to create an empty list by using square brackets. The second way to create an empty list is by using square brackets. So if you look at LST now, that's again an empty list. So these are the two different ways of creating an empty list in Python. Now let's see how to create a list of numbers. Let's say 11, 22, 33, 44 and 55. So you have this list. Now if you say type of LST, that's a list. You can have list of numbers. You can even have list of strings also. Let's say colors, red, green, and then blue. So this is again a list. If you say type of colors, that's going to be a list. And not only that, you can have combination of both numbers and strings as well. Let's say mixed equal to 11, 22. Let's say hello world. Again, if you look at type of mixed, that's a list. So list can have elements of different types as well. Now a list can have one more list inside that. Let's say list equal to 11, 22, and we can have other elements in the form of list as well. So this is again a list containing a list as one of the element. So these are the different ways of creating a list. Let's talk about list length, that is finding out the number of elements in a given list. I'll add a heading for the same. List length. I'll create a simple list. So I have this list of elements. To figure out the number of elements in this list, you can just say len of lst. That will give you the number of elements in this list. Let's talk about list append now. So list append is nothing but you have a list and you try to add the elements to that list. So list append. So you have this list. If you say lst dot append of 100, then this element 100 could be added to this list. But append can support elements to be added only at the end of the list. If you wanted to add the elements anywhere between the list of the elements, then we cannot use append. We have to use insert. So insert can be used to insert the elements or to add the elements anywhere in between as well. Let's talk about list insert. List insert, we have to understand about a concept called as index. So suppose if I take this list, the elements in this list can be accessed based on the index. So the index will start from 0. LST of 0 will get me the element 11. LST of 1 will get me the next element 22 and so on. Now suppose I wanted to add an element, let's say 500 at the index position 1, then I can do this way. LST dot insert of, so basically the element index which nothing but 1, let's say element value 500. Now look at LST, you can say element 500 has been added at index position 1. To confirm that, you can even say LST of 1, that's going to give you 500. So append can be used to add the elements only at the end of the list, whereas insert can be used to add the elements anywhere in between as well. Let's talk about list remove, that is removing the elements from a given list. List remove. I'll take the same list. Suppose I wanted to remove the element 500. Then I can say LST dot remove of 500. Look at LST now, 500 is not available. So similarly, suppose I wanted to remove element 100, that is also possible. LST dot remove of 100. If you look at LST now, 100 has been deleted. Right now, if you try to remove something which doesn't exist, LST dot remove of, let's say 90. 90 is not available. Then you will see value error. X is not in the list. We are trying to remove something which is not available in the list. Let's talk about list extend. So first I'll go ahead and add the heading for list extend. List extend. I'll create two lists now. List 1 is 11, 22, 33 and list 2 is 44, 55, 66. So you have two lists, LST1 and then LST2. Now you can say LST1 dot extend of LST2. If you look at LST1, you'll have the elements of LST1 extended by the elements of elements of LST2. Now we can achieve the same by using plus operator also. Let's do that. I'm going to say list extend by using plus operator. List extend by using plus operator. So again, I'll have the same list created here. Let me just copy paste this. Now I wanted to get the similar functionality as above. What I can do is I can just say LST1 plus LST2. You should get the same thing. Let's talk about list delete. So list delete is nothing but deleting the elements based on the index. So we have used list remove to remove the elements based on the value. Now I'm going to talk about list delete, which can be used to delete the elements based on the index. So suppose I have this list with me. Now if I say LST del, first let's look at the values. LST of 0 is 11. Now if I say del LST of 0, that could be deleted. Look at LST, 11 is not there. So similarly, I can delete any element. So in fact, I can delete the entire list also by using del keyword. let's say del LST, this will remove the entire list. If I try to access LST, it will fail because we have deleted the entire list by using del keyword. Now let's talk about list related keywords. So, or I would say that in operator, or it's also called as membership operator. Let me put it that way. Membership operator. Suppose I create a list with some elements 11, 22, 33. I have this list with me right now. If I say 11 in LST, that will give me true because 11 is part of this. If I say 22 in LST, that's again going to give me true because 22 is part of this. If I say 88 in LST, that's going to give me false because 88 is not part of this list. We can even negate this condition. 88 not in LST. Read this in English. 88 is not part of LST. That's going to give you true because we are using not. Now let's talk about list reverse. How to reverse a list. List reverse. So let me create a new list. I have this list. Now I wanted to reverse this. To reverse this, I can say lst dot reverse. Now look at lst, that's reversed. That is how we can reverse a given list by using list dot reverse. We'll talk about list operations now. So list operations is nothing but, suppose I wanted to find out the minimum element from the list. I have this list. I want to find the minimum element. Say min of LST, that's going to give the smallest. I want to get the largest. Then say max of LST. I want to find the sum of all the elements. Say sum of LST. That's going to give you sum of all the elements in this list. You can verify it manually also if you want. Have a look here, both are same. And suppose I wanted to find out the index of a specific element. I can also do that. List dot index of 44. So 44 is available at index position 1, right? To confirm LST of 1, that should get you 44. So these are some of the operations that we can do on a list. Let's talk about list sorting. How to sort a list. List sorting. So I will create a list now with random elements. So I have this list now with random elements. I want to sort it. You can just say list dot sort. Now look at LST. It's sorted in the ascending order, increasing order. Right? Now to sort it in the descending order, say reverse equal to true. Look at LST now. Now the elements are sorted in the descending order. That is the decreasing order. Any questions still here, guys? Anybody have any questions so far? I'll wait for a couple of minutes. I think we are good. Let's move on. So let's talk about list having multiple references. I will add a heading for the same. List having multiple references. So suppose I have a list of elements 11, 22, 33. Now what you can do is you can assign this reference to something else. Let's say ABC equal to LST. If you look at ABC now, ABC also contains the same. If you say ABC dot append of 100, If you look at ABC, 100 has added, 100 has been added. But now if you look at LST now, that's also added because we have assigned the reference to that. String split to create a list. So let's add a heading. String split to create a list. So let's take a string. This is November month, right? So S is what? S is nothing but a string. Type of is that's a string. Now I wanted to break this string or split this string based on comma as a delimiter or separator, right? So what you could do is you could say S dot split of comma. Then you are going to get a list. To confirm, assign it to variable. So this is a list. You can even say type of LST. That's a list. So when you apply a split function on a given string, the final output will be a list. Remember that. Let's talk about list indexing. I'll add a heading for list indexing. So I will add some elements to this list. So I have this list. I know that the index of an index in list will start with 0. LST of 0 will get me the first element. LST of 1 will get me the next element. And there is one interesting thing. LST of -1 will get you the last element. I don't think this feature is available in any programming language. So LST of -1 will get you the last element from this list. And if you say 1 second, it got hung. So LST of -2 will get to the second last element. So suppose if it's a LST of 30, that will fail because I just have only 5 elements in my list. I am trying to access an element at index position 30, which is not correct. Hence, you will see index error, list index out of range. Now, not only that, one another common mistake which I have seen is if it's a LST of 12.5, which is actually a floating number, it's going to say type error. List indices must be integers or slices, not floating values. So floating values is not supported. Floating values is not supported if you're trying to access the elements from a list. Just give me a minute. Yeah, so remember these 2 points. If you're trying to access the element at index position 30 or whatever it is, it's failed. It's going to fail because we just have only 5 elements and we're trying to access element which is available at index position 30. That will fail. So don't do that. And also second point to be noted is if you're trying to access the elements, always the index must be an integer value. We cannot have floating value. Let's talk about list slicing. This is very important in the interviews. So I've seen multiple interview questions asked in the same. List slicing. Suppose I create a list with some elements 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66, 77, 88. I have this list with me now. Now we have the concept similar to range here. We have start, stop, and then step size. So this is what we have learned when we were learning the range function, right? The same thing is applicable here. So suppose if I say colon colon, which means it's going to start by default from 0 and stop value is nothing but till the end of the list and step size is 1. So I can get the same thing by saying 0 len of lst colon 1. You got the same output, right? Now I want alternative elements from this list, right? Alternative elements are nothing but 11, 33, 55, 77. So how to get that? LST of 0 colon len of LST colon 2. So that will get to the alternative elements. Have a look here. 11, 33, 55, 77. All these are alternative elements from this list. This is very important interview question, guys, by the way. And you can even write a shortcut code here. Colon colon 2 will get to the same thing, right? Have a look here. Both are same. So this is again very important concept. So please practice more on the slicing. Let's talk about list count. So list count or list frequency both are same. That is finding out the number of times an element is repeating. So list count or list frequency. So let's create a list. Let's create a list with some elements. So this is my list. Now I basically wanted to find out the number of times an element is repeating. Let's say lst dot count of 11, that will get me 1. lst dot count of 22, that will get me 2. lst dot count of 33, that will get me 3, and so on, right? So that is how you can actually get the number of times an element is repeating by using list dot count. Let's talk about list looping. So I'm going to add a heading, list looping. So let me create a list by using range function. So list of range of 1, 11, so that it will get me a list with elements from 1 to 10. I wanted to traverse to this list. I wanted to print the elements from this list. Then I can say for element in LST print element. You can see that you got the output. That's how you can navigate through the elements of this list. So now let's talk about list comprehension. This is very important again from the interview perspective. So first we'll do one thing. We will write the code without using list comprehensions. Then we'll write the code by using list comprehensions. So let me add a heading. So I'll add a heading. Without list comprehensions. Let's say example 1. Without list comprehensions. So the goal is simple. The problem statement is I wanted to find out the squares of the numbers from, let's say, 1 to 10. So 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, and so on. We will say how to achieve the same without using list comprehension. So what is the traditional approach? Suppose I have this list created, list equal to LST of range of 1, 11 will get me the elements from 1 to 10, right? But my goal is to find out the squares of this. To get the squares of these numbers, then what we can do is we can actually say final list equal to an empty list for element in LST. You can say final list dot append, then you have to say element into element. Now if you look at final list, this will contain all the squares of the numbers from 1 to 10, which is nothing but 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, and so on until 10 square, which is nothing but 100. So this is without using list comprehension. Now we will solve the same example by using list comprehension. I will add a heading. So with list comprehension, same example, hence I'm going to say example 1. Again, the problem statement is same. I have a list of elements from 1 to 10. I want you to find out the squares of the numbers from 1 to 10 by using list comprehension. So let's say squares is nothing but my final list. So this is how we are going to use for element in LST. Then we are going to say element into element. That's all. Can you see that? This is the simple and elegant way of creating the list comprehension. Now, why is it popular? Because rather than creating an empty list and adding the elements to it at the end, you can simply define the list and its contents at the same time by following this list comprehension approach. Now we will do one more example. So suppose I have a sentence. If it is an oval, then I have to print it into a ovals list. First we'll do it without using list comprehension. Without list comprehensions. Example 2. So I'll take this string. This is November month. So this is my string type of is, and I wanted to create a final list called as ovals list. If it contains oval, then it's going to add all those. So how to go by this? For character in string s, so I'm talking about the traditional approach first. If I have to define one more, ovals equal to a AEIO. So something similar to whatever I have done here, right? So first I have to define this ovals AEIOU. So if that character is in ovals, then add that character to that ovals list. Yes, I know you might be finding it a little tough to understand list comprehension, but it is important. Don't forget that it is used quite a lot in the projects, in the interviews, wherever you go, you cannot escape from list comprehension. Right now you can see first it took the word called as this, and what is the oval in this? I, right? That is printed. Then it took the next word, which nothing but is. What is the oval there? I. And then it took November. There you find totally 3 ovals, and all those are printed here. In month, only one oval, O, that is printed here. Now we'll do the same thing with list comprehension. So I will add heading with list comprehension. Example 2. So I'll take the same string. Let's say ovals final list for character in string s if that character is in ovals. What is this ovals here? If that character is in ovals, then that's what we want, isn't it? That's all. Basically, you can see that we are writing the code just in one line, and we are achieving the same. right? Now, one last example with respect to list comprehension. I had to print the even numbers from 1 to 10 by using list comprehension. First, let's see without list comprehension. Without list comprehension, let's say example 3. First, I'll define a list. I'll define a list of numbers from 1 to 10. Now, I will define an empty list. Let's say even list. This will be an empty list. Then I can say for element in LST, if element percentage 2 equal to 0, that will be my even number. Element percentage 2 equal to 0, that will be my even number. If that is the case, then add that event list dot append of element. Now if you look at even list, you should have only the even numbers. I will achieve the same thing without using list comprehension. Sorry, with list comprehension. With list comprehension, same example. Again, I'll take the same list of numbers from 1 to 10. We have the numbers from 1 to 10. Then what we need to do is we need to actually get the even numbers. Let's say even final list equal to for element in LST, if element percentage 2 equal to 0, then only get that element. You can see that you got the same output. So that's the power of list comprehension. Please solve more examples on list comprehension. This is very, very important in the interviews as well as in the projects. So now by this time you got a better idea about list. So list is one of the sequence data structure in Python. Each element or each value that is inside a list is called as an item. So list is nothing but collection of items. It can be, you can have a list of strings, list of integers. A list can contain another list as an element. And if you find the square brackets, that's an indication that you are dealing with a list. And each element in the list has an assigned index value that we have seen. Each item in a list is separated by a comma, and this point is important. Lists are mutable, that is, they are modifiable. The meaning of mutable is nothing but modifiable, changeable. That is, we have seen how to insert the elements, delete the elements, update the elements, etc. Right? All that is possible because lists are mutable in nature. That is, they are modifiable. So let's see some tips and tricks. So let me add a heading first. So Python tips and tricks. So the first one is store all the values of the list in 3 new variables. Suppose I have this list. If you wanted to store these values in a separate variables, that is also possible. That is called as list unpacking. Let's do that. 11, 22, 33. Right? Then you can say x equal to 11, y equal to 22, and sorry, not this way. You have to follow this way. X comma y comma z, x comma y comma z equal to LST. Look at x now. X is 11, y is 22, z is 33. So this is called as list unpacking. So this is again very interesting. So sometimes you may get a question such as you have two lists and you have to basically create, or you have to club the things to get it. So you can use zip function. and that takes two lists as an input, and then it will print it. So let's see one example. Let's say zip function. I'll create two lists. Let's say month sequence 1, 2, 3, month names. Let's say Jan, Feb, March. For I'm going to basically follow this similar syntax for x comma y in zip takes two lists as an input, right? So month underscore seq month underscore names, then print x comma y. That's how we can use zip function to add two lists, or to basically get the corresponding elements from two lists. So inspect an object in Python. We can inspect objects in Python by calling the dir method. So inspecting an object, So basically inspecting is nothing but you try to figure out all the things that you can apply on a given object such as list. So now if you try to apply dir, so do dir of lst, you should be able to figure out what are the things that you can have, what are the built-in variables, what are the methods that you can apply on all that. So this is list slicing again. One again important example. They'll give a list. They'll ask you how to reverse it, or they may ask you how to reverse a list in single line of code, right? So we can reverse a list in a single line of code by using slicing technique. If you say colon colon minus one, that will reverse it. So let's do that. Reverse a list by using slicing, or they may ask you how to reverse a list in single line. So let's take this list 11, 22, 33, 44, 55. So you can say LST, same thing, LST colon colon minus 1. Or they may ask you how to reverse a list without using a built-in function such as reverse. The answer is by using slicing. Colon colon minus 1 will reverse the list. So enumerate, I'll talk about it later because this is going to be covered under built-in functions. I'll skip this for now. And this counter is also, I'm going to skip it because you need to have basic understanding about dictionary. I'll talk about this in the next session. So same thing, I think reversed. Okay. If you wanted to iterate through a sequence in the reverse order, you should be using reversed. So let's add a heading for that. Reversed iteration. I can take a same list, by the way. So let's take this list. This is my list. Then what I can do is for element in reversed of lst, then print element. Basically, you are printing the elements of a list in the reverse order by using reversed function. So I think dir I have already covered. And initialize a list filled with some repetitive number. Suppose if you have this number 1 and you want to repeat it 10 times, you can do this. So repetition operator. I'll take the same example. Let's say 1, I want it 5 times. I can do that. Again, based on today's session, I got some interview questions for you. So, and I have a simple assignment also. Let me try to solve this assignment for you. So Python program to interchange the first element and last element in a list. If you see this list, this is my list and I wanted to get this output. So you can see first element and last element positions got exchanged. That's what I want. 11 went last and 66 came first. So let me solve that assignment for you. Let me take the same input 11, 22, 33, 44, 55, 66. This is my list. Now what I can do here is I can say lst of 0 will get me the first element, which is nothing but 11. LSD of minus 1 will get me the last element. So we have understood how to start two elements in a list, or how to start two elements in a single line of code. That's what I'm going to follow now. LSD of 0, comma, LSD of minus 1 equal to LSD of minus 1 and then LSD of 0. Let's run this. Look at LSD now. You can see the positions got exchanged. 66 is coming first, 11 is coming last. So that is how we can actually interchange the first and last elements in a list. Okay, I wanted to talk about the remaining collections called as tuple, dictionaries, set, and then string in the next session. Meanwhile, I can share this notebook with you. Anybody have any questions, guys? Any questions so far? I'm going to share this notebook with you for your reference. So this contains everything. So keep it as reference and then practice. So in the next session, we will talk about tuple, dictionary, set, and then strings. Okay. So I will also share these slides with you. You can have a look at the interview questions and everything. Anybody have any questions so far? Okay, if not, let us meet on Monday. Okay. See you then. Bye.
Thank you, Vamsi.
Yeah, see you. Bye bye.
Thank you.